Hello, board game family. Welcome back to Game Brigade. My name is Brian.
My name is Matt.
And today we're going to be recapping our experiences at Dice Tower West. So if you are interested in terms of conventions, in terms of like what it's like going to a board game convention, also hearing about what we played or didn't play, everything we did in between, stay tuned for that. Okay, guys, so we got back maybe 2 weeks ago. It feels like it's been a while. We haven't had a chance to get together and actually talk about our experience. So this will be fun to finally talk about what we experienced, what our expectations were, how did it play out. And we're just going to kind of go through, we're going to do a daily kind of rundown of what we did, and then kind of finalize it talking about overall what we thought about the experience and if we recommend it. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned for that. I'll try to timestamp this.
Yeah.
So Matt, you were there first. You drove down.
I did. I left at 4 a.m. Not forgetting that there was a tiny bit of a time change.
Yeah.
And
you gained an hour.
Yeah, we gained an hour.
Yeah.
So got there at 1 a.m. I think
1 a.m. No, you got there at 1 p.m.
No, I left at 4 a.m. to get there at 1 p.m. I thought it was 2.
Yeah.
But so I got there a little early. Ended up going over to the Gaming Goat store and cleared up a few issues with some orders I've had over the COVID period.
Yeah, so just to give an example, the Gaming Goat's an online retailer. You had backed things through them and had some issues getting your product.
Yes.
And multiple issues. So I think you kind of were talking about, I want to go there and see what they can do.
Yeah. Yeah, so I met Jeff and told him about all the issues I had. So some of them Kickstarter related, some non. So there was a few products that they didn't have in stock that they said that so inventory problems. There was an issue with Massive Darkness 2 where they just didn't get the product, so I had to cancel that order.
Which is so weird.
Yeah, and I mean, Simon said that their last update on January 27th that all the product has been fulfilled, and he hadn't gotten any notices at all, so he wasn't gonna likely get it.
I wonder where that product went.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was that weird snafu where a bunch of product just went missing, so maybe that was his. I guess. So, anyways, I ended up having a couple $100 in credit from all of these snafus, and I went ahead and they took care of me. He gave me a great deal. I went on a little shopping spree, picked up a bunch of games that were on my list to actually play during the event.
Yeah. So what do you remember what you bought?
Yeah, so I ended up picking up the copy of Clank Catacombs.
Yep.
And I picked up a copy of Need of Lear.
Yeah, I remember that.
Was kind of one of my.
Did you get any of the Garfield games?
I did get Architects.
Architects.
Or no, not Architects.
No, Paladins.
Paladins. Bought Paladins. Because we
Yep.
talked about Paladins being a little heavier.
Yep.
So I figured that might be better. So I picked up those. I picked up a base game copy of Sleeping Gods.
Yes, I saw that. And you also got Marvel Champions.
Yep, I got. So I had somehow during the holiday season skipped over Cyclops and Phoenix.
Yep.
So I picked them up.
Do you have Gambit and
I have not picked those. Gambit and Rogue came out.
That's right.
A couple weeks ago, I think.
I just got them. I haven't even unboxed them yet.
I have not opened any of the X-Men stuff. I'm bad. I haven't touched it in forever. So I needed to catch up on that. And then I did pick up actually the main expansion for Nemesis that I missed out on.
So the co-op one.
Yeah.
The co-op one.
It's like that prequel thing. Or
Yeah.
It's like it's a post game, right? So it's after the game, you have like a little mini game.
It's a whole story.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So we picked up that, and like I got it all for like just around $200. So
it was a good deal.
It was a great deal. They really took care of me because of all the issues I had, and all of my orders outside of I think one are taken care of.
That's
so
good.
It was a good start to the trip.
And so you went straight there first. You're like, I'm dealing with this.
Well, it was an issue. It's like, well, you hadn't landed yet, and nobody else was there. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Go to the convention and just be there by myself? I guess. Well, no, I'm just gonna go and take care of this one issue. Yeah. And so we did that. Then everybody started kind of landing and getting into town. So you guys showed up around 2:30, 3 o'clock.
I landed at 2, went to In-N-Out.
Yep.
I had my friend Kyle pick me up. So we went to In-N-Out. Then we tried to check in. Checkout process was a nightmare. First off, a lot of hotels I've been to in Vegas, like if you show up an hour or so early, they're like, fine, you're good. Yeah. Here's your key. Thank you. No, these people, I tried checking in with the like first the kiosk and it says your room's not available. Yeah. Then we waited in line. Line waiting took forever.
Yeah.
And they said, sorry, your room's not available till 4. And I'm like, it's 3:50. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Come on. So not only did we have to wait in line for 2 hours to get to that point, then we had to wait longer. So it felt like forever. So once we got our room, we had dinner, which was way expensive. I thought Vegas had cheap food.
It used to be known as cheap food because that was the way of drawing
in cheap rooms, cheap food, and then you pay for expensive.
They're going to get your money no matter what.
Yeah.
So they wanted to entice you in with these deals and then take all your money at the table.
So I had a $20 burger in the hotel. That might be fine, but like sometimes I'm like, that's egregious. I think $15 is like the most I ever want to pay for a burger. So $20, I was like, whoa, $6 for a soda. Thank God I ordered water.
Yeah.
So yeah, we Wednesday, I don't think we did anything.
We didn't do a lot with that. So once you guys landed and we were finally able to get into the room and get all that done, we went shopping and picked up groceries and kind of staples for things because we don't want to spend a fortune on food.
You thought that, you would think so. Yeah, we went to the local Walmart, which isn't too far away. Yeah. Saw someone getting their car potentially broken into. Totally weird.
No idea.
And as we're leaving, I'm like, well, we sure got the culture of Vegas.
Broad daylight. The guy just pulls up one of those shimmy sticks and
starts shivving. Like,
starts
what's
going in there.
on?
Like, we get out. I think he was jumping his car afterwards, so maybe he just couldn't unlock it. I have no idea.
It was weird,
but it was interesting. It was unique.
Yes, we did get the food. I played Magic. I played a Commander game with Kyle.
Yeah.
I think that might have been... Oh, did we do anything that night?
So I ended up playing one game at the very tail end of the night. So one of our other friends showed up late. He was the person I was rooming with. So we finally got him checked in at like 8 o'clock. We got down to the facility and got him checked in, got his badge, and we were able to get a game of Comic Hunters, which was my number one play. I was able to play it multiple times during the weekend, but that was the first one, and it was a good experience.
I remember now. Wednesday was the night where I had my Blood on the Clock Tower scheduled. Now, we did make a top 10 games we wanted to play.
Yeah.
My number one game that I wanted to play was Blood on the Clock Tower. So I ended up finding a game on that first night, and I played it. And I was awful. I sucked. I got eliminated right away. I didn't know what I was doing, but I got the bug. I was like, okay, I understand the game now. I was so hyped to play it again. And then after that was pretty late when I finished that game, close to like midnight. But I still had a gaming convention bug that was only played one game. So I went and played Dune Imperium.
Oh, yeah.
And I grabbed the Dune Imperium they had 3 copies of Dune Imperium in the library. 2 of them had no expansions. One of them had Rise of X. So I'm like, do you know which one? Nope, you just got to pick a box and hope you find it. So that kind of sucked that I had to like, oh, okay, this is the one I'm looking for.
Could have felt it was a little bit heavier than the other ones, maybe?
Maybe if I was a little bit smarter, maybe that would have been the way to go. But instead, I'm sitting there sifting through all the stuff. So I checked it out. Me and Kyle sat down and we're like, well, let's try seeing if we can find anyone. So we put the Players Wanted sign up in the big room.
The main room.
And the main room. And we just kind of waited. Kyle looked like he was falling asleep. So one guy sits down and he's like, I've never played this game before. I'm like, I'm confident I can teach you this game in 10 minutes. But let's see if we can get another player. And then 2 guys showed up and they're like, we want to play. And I'm like, Kyle, you look like you're falling asleep. So why don't you get out of here?
Yeah.
I brought these 2 other guys in. And I taught all of them. Like I said, I feel like I can confidently teach that game in 10 minutes and people can be ready to go.
Yeah.
And we played, and I didn't even win. Played people who had never played before, and I think I got last place again.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell I do wrong. I think I tried to do too cute things, and nothing works. But I finally finished that game, and it was like 3 a.m. I was stressing out because you have to get the games in, they say, by 3 a.m.
Yeah.
When the library closes.
It closed for 4 hours every night to give them a little bit of breathing room for the people that were running the booths.
Yeah. And they don't want you keeping them overnight.
Yeah.
You know? And I get it, because if we kept it overnight, I'm not bringing it back till noon when I wake up.
Yeah, and they don't like people keeping the games longer than several.
A few hours.
Like they jokingly say, 10 hours, why are you doing this? You're stealing the game from other people being able to play it. But spoiler alert, Brian does win Dune. Let's not kid ourselves here. He has a very specific strategy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
The special cards that you can get in the game.
The Benny Gesserit little sneaking in the back end and trying to win through tactics. Yeah, I don't try to win. The reason I lost that game is I had the mutant. Or I think that's his name. The guy that. The guy Drax.
Drax's character. Yeah.
And I just can't figure out the beast. Yep. I cannot figure out how to win with the conflict.
Yeah.
I just suck at it. But if you let me play, shady stuff and have an ability that does something, way better. So that was a little unfortunate.
He often wins with the secret cards with extra victory points included.
Are you saying it because you just watched my Quackula playthrough?
That's what I said. No spoilers if you haven't watched that one yet.
It's a good game, though. Watch it.
It is good.
So that was our final day, Wednesday. I went to bed at 3 a.m., exhausted. I don't think I fell asleep till 4, so it was a rough day going into Thursday.
Yep. So
I don't remember Thursday at all.
Yeah, he was a late riser most mornings. I, on the other hand, was not. Thursday, I got up, I think, at like 7 a.m.
Oh, my gosh.
Had some breakfast and ended up playing Clank Catacombs twice. So I got taught the game by another individual. We played a 2-player game. After that, I passed it. I kind of paid it forward. And I taught 3 other people because everybody was still asleep. So we played another game, taught all of them, and did a 4-player game. And then everybody kind of woke up from there.
Now, I didn't connect with you guys also this day because one of the reasons I went to the show was specifically on Wednesday and Thursday. I wanted to do it more of a work trip for the channel. So I spent a good amount of time talking with the publishers that were there. Yeah. I also met up with Alex from Board Game Co. and Meg from Professor Meg. And I hung out with them as we were talking to publishers. 2 things. I wanted to see how they do it comparatively to how I do it, which is crazy because Alex is such a very personable person when it comes to talking to publishers. It was very kind of enlightening. Yeah. And so I got to talk to some publishers. One of them of note that I really enjoyed talking to was Academy Games. I talked to the owner. I think it's He's German. It's like UWE. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Okay.
Maybe. Because Stellaris was a game that I was very hyped about, kind of hearing their thoughts on it. It sounds like things are coming around. I was one that was very hard on them in my coverage for Stellaris. So it was actually really nice to actually talk to a publisher who was open to hearing my criticisms and complaints. Yeah. And hear about, so where's the game at and what can we expect? So that was great.
Yeah. Yeah. There was not as much as like a Gen Con or something like that, but there was a good amount of designers. We were actually even taught a game later on by what I believe actually was one of the developers of the game, which was a really cool experience.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else did we do on Thursday? So we connected at some point.
Yeah. So later that, just before noon, we ended up playing a game of Res Arcana, which another one of our friends, Ryan, really wanted to play. It was on his top games that he wanted to try.
Res Arcana, thoughts, early impressions?
I had owned the game prior. My first time I played it, I thought it was interesting. It was kind of like a Magic, figure out the best way to kind of stack the engine and build the way to be able to get to 10 points before your opponents, and I thought that was interesting.
Yep. Who won that game? I won that game?
I think you did.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I won that game.
There was a lot of just dragons dealing lots of damage, taking away lots of resources, and it was kind of got to a point where it was a little bit of a slog just trying to get it through.
I thought the game was very linear in terms of the puzzle it's asking you to do. Yeah. It's literally, you get a hand of cards. Your only real choice that changes things is the character you pick. Because after that, you're kind of drafting things, but you're going to get something at this point. Yeah. I think we talked about we did something wrong there because we should have kept card tokens out of the draft so everything gets picked.
Yeah.
I think that was the only thing we did wrong. But still, playing the game, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. Oh, I have no more dragons, so this card in my hand is literally worthless, so I'm never going to play it. Yeah. And I'm just going to keep generating resources until I can buy the things that win the game. And I know we're doing a very bad description of the game. Sure. But I was very unimpressed. And even to the point where everyone was like, man, I wonder if the expansions fix this game.
We don't know. We didn't dig that deep. They didn't have the expansions there to try to play any more of it. I felt like it was a lot like a Magic sealed deck if you played Magic the Gathering, where sometimes you get really good cards and they work well together, and sometimes you don't, because this is just a random dealing of a hand,
you just draw, you shuffle the whole thing, you deal them out of cards to people, and that's what you have.
Your whole deck is 8 cards, and if you don't get a good synergistic 8 cards, then you're just not going to have quite the engine capability of somebody else who did. So I don't know. It just didn't hit very well in my book.
I'm curious what people say about it, but Res Arcana was definitely a miss for me.
Yeah. It was a game I ended up selling because it just didn't hit the mark.
What else did we do on Thursday?
So after that, we played Comic Book Hunters again.
Yeah, okay, and that's when I played. Yeah.
So we had played it once, the two of us, and then so the rest of the group was there on Thursday at that point in time, and so we played a group of 4 playing that game, and then Brian, it's only a 4-player game, so we had 5 people. Brian went and played Guards of Atlantis 2.
I was offered, Ryan offered to let me have his spot, because I think he played it with you.
I was even willing to sit out and teach everybody the game.
So this will bring up an interesting point. We can kind of talk about it. I was to a point that I did not want to learn a new game.
Yeah.
I honestly was like, I don't want to learn a thing. It's not. I'm not. I just want to play something. Yeah. I saw 3 people sitting over at Guards of Atlantis 2 in the hot game room, kind of sitting there. Yeah. And I thought, you know what? I might just sit down with them and play. Yeah. So while you guys did the Comic Book Hunters, I went and played the Guards of Atlantis. Also, one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had, because I'm sitting with people who I don't know if they know each other. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not sure. The guy who decides to take the teach on, he goes, by the way, are you okay with cursing? I'm like, I'm fine with cursing. Sure. And when someone says that, I'm expecting that they're just going to like curse every once in a while. Yeah. No, he starts going, okay, you're going to effing go ahead and kill this other mother effer. And I'm like, what is going on here?
Like, there's a use of cursing to emphasize something, and there's somebody just being vulgar.
Yeah. And the other thing was his partner sitting across from, so my partner sat across from me, his partner sat across from him. He would just say, like, you're so effing dumb. Why are you effing doing whatever you're doing? And I'm like, dude, this is awkward.
It's intense. Yeah.
I found out after, like, most of the game was over that they had actually known each other for like 30 years.
That's a good thing, I guess.
You have to understand, though, for 30 plus minutes, I'm thinking, this guy's just yelling at this person.
So, like, I don't know if this guy's ever coming back to Dice Tower West.
I was like, this is awkward. So it brought up an interesting point of, you're playing with people you don't know, and there's a lot of different types of personalities. And I probably, if I were, I'm not going to... I'm judging the guy, but I'm not trying to. Yeah. I would never recommend that being a way to have people that you don't know play a game with you. Yeah, it was very weird. It made the experience almost uncomfortable. Yeah. And I was like more than happy to just get this game over as quick as possible so I can go do something else.
Yeah. I mean, we're there all to have fun and not to have awkward interactions.
So this Thursday, we had our friend Jed come in, and we went, you didn't join us for this one, so you were out of this. Yes. We went to In-N-Out again. I had In-N-Out 3 days in a row.
We don't have one in Boise, by the way, so when we get the option, it's still fast food, but it is pretty decent fast food. It feels like
not fast food.
Yeah.
It's definitely fast food.
Yeah.
We also got a lot of memes that we're making up, like with Ryan. I'm not going to throw her under the bus, but it was pretty fun. Yeah. And then we went to my first escape room. We went to I'm not sure the name of the one, but the name of the room was called like One-Eyed Willie.
Okay.
And effectively, you are captured by a serial killer, and you have to escape. So we're going to start off in a room with blindfolds on, which was kind of crazy, and you're in a jail cell, and it's a multi-room, which I think is cool, because I didn't know escape rooms were multi-room. Yeah. So we had to go through multiple rooms to get through this, and we finished with about 15 minutes to spare. Nice. No clues. We didn't ask for a single clue.
So no penalties.
No penalties. Yeah. I was like... The girl was like, that's probably the fastest we've seen someone do with no clues. I'm like, so do we win something? I was like, I want one of your Red Bulls out front. I'm like, give me something here. But I really enjoyed it, actually. Yeah. And to the point where I was like, if I go to more conventions like this, I want this to be like a tradition that one of the nights we have to make sure we do an escape room.
Fine, I'll go next time.
I mean, I don't want to force it. If it's not someone's MO, because you also don't want someone dragging you down because they're like, I don't get the puzzle. This isn't fun. Yeah. You don't want that.
Yeah.
But I like that in this experience, we had 4 people go, and each person seemed to present a solution to one of the puzzles.
Be part of the equation.
Be a part. Yeah. Each person was doing something, and each person felt like, I got it. I did it. And then that was really cool to see multiple people cheering along.
It's like the reason why I didn't want to go is I've played Exits, I've played Unlocks, I've done a lot of the different games you can get in the board game space, and it's like. So I'm like, I've played some of these puzzle types of things, and I didn't have the best of experiences doing this. So I'm like, I don't know if having the physicality of a space is going to really improve upon that. But
I would say yes for me, because I played exit games and I thought it was awful. I haven't played any unlock games, but I do like deduction.
Sure.
So going from an exit game, which I thought was literally the worst experience I've played in gaming in a long time, to this where I was having a blast.
Yeah.
I think the immersion effect adds a lot. Mm-hmm. So that was Thursday. Did you do anything that night when we left?
So while you guys were gone, I did two things. So throughout the entire event, I did look and like kind of pay attention to how many people were doing the teach signs and how many people were doing the players wanted, and they weren't as prevalent as I thought they would be.
Yeah.
Like I had the expectation that we were going to be able to go down there. I still have my top 10 list that we talked about, and a lot of them were like, oh, I want this, I want to learn this game, I want to be taught this game. Like I wanted to get a lot of these new game experiences in, figure out if I wanted to buy these games. Like I wanted some of that to be the experience I was looking for.
Yep.
And I didn't see it that often. In fact, I saw kind of the opposite. Most people were playing with the same people every time that I saw them around. And the people that did have the signs up, often I was watching them for 10, 15, 20 minutes, just reading the manuals themselves, hoping that somebody would come along.
So you're talking about the people who had teacher wanted.
Yeah.
And then no one would ever sit down to teach the game.
Not saying it never happened, but it felt infrequent, and it didn't seem like most people that went down were playing with a group or whatnot, or they had already found the players, I guess, maybe. I don't know. I didn't see it as often as I thought I would.
Now, there was a system for you to schedule games or book. Did you play with that at all once you got there?
So once I got there, I never looked at the app again.
Okay.
The only thing I used it for was the events. So maybe people were doing that, and that's why I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I'm sure, there was 3,000 people there, so the possibilities for that to be happening, that we were just so busy trying to figure things out, maybe it didn't work.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing was I read the rules for some of the games that we did want to play. So I read the rules for Planet Unknown.
Yep.
And I also opened up and messed around with Cthulhu Death May Die with the Unspeakable box that I talked about.
Yeah, so Season 1's Kickstarter exclusives. Yep. And we talked about this in one of our Should You Backs, that I thought it was going to be an ultra value. Mm-hmm. But now that Season 4 has been announced, we're like, is the Unspeakable box as good? So getting a chance to see it hands-on was something we were looking for. So you actually found a copy, and you're like, I went through it.
Yeah, I did go through it, and it's not bad. It was an included item, but to pay $120 for it, I definitely don't feel like during the second Kickstarter, it was $120. Aftermarket, they were asking $300 to $400. Yeah. I definitely don't think it's worth that.
No.
The flimsy plastic trays, yes, it's better than just laying them on a table, but they weren't impressive at all. The characters, it was just more characters, but like comparing it to the stretch goals for the second campaign, because that's where we kind of jumped in.
Yeah.
I just wasn't blown away. I read the Dagon character and how he played. That was the Elder one. That was special during the exclusive one. He didn't seem that interesting.
That was the interesting part that you mentioned. You're like, I read his scenario, and it wasn't even worth, in my opinion, it didn't seem fun.
No, because he takes over the good characters, and if you ever get to, I can't remember all the rules of it, but essentially you can get to a point where all the characters are taken over, or enough of the characters are taken over that you just lose. And I was like, that doesn't seem that interesting. So out of this entire collection, you get 3 scenarios, and they were cute. There was one that was an ice cream, an ice cream truck or something like that. Was trying to abduct people. There was one that was UFOs, and you had to blow up cows to try to destroy the aliens.
Stuff. They're just doing weird stuff.
The coolest one that I read was the last one where it's a scenario where there's no bad guys innately on the board or whatnot, and you're at a birthday party, I guess.
Oh, weird.
And it's an interaction where there's essentially all of the characters, all of the playable characters are all on the board at the same time in a party situation, and some of them are bad guys, and you have to kind of deduce which ones are bad. It sounded intriguing, but it didn't seem worth it, and so I was like, well, that's interesting. Packed it up, put it back on the shelf, and called it a night.
Yeah. And then we're going to Friday night.
Yeah.
And Friday...
So Friday, we started off with a few different things. I think, again, you were over kind of talking with developers and whatnot.
So I was talking with developers. I also had a lunch appointment with some of the Dice Tower people. Mm-hmm. So I went to lunch with Camilla and Z, as well as the new gentleman.
Joey Evan?
The
Joey.
Joey, the magician. So I was able to go to lunch with them. We had some pizza. In fact, they went to this pizza place that was local that has used the same mother, I think they're called.
Yeah, mother dough.
Mother dough for 125 years.
Yeah, it's like how you make sourdough, right? There's like a
dough that they keep, you keep refreshing. And so they have a dough that's been around, of course, who knows if it's true, but they say it's been 125 years this dough's been, which means the dough is very flavorful.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, the pizza toppings I picked, weird.
I heard.
Weird. But the dough was so good.
I heard they were sharing pizzas. Nobody wanted
No one wanted my pizzas. But mine comes out, to tell you the truth, guy, mine comes out, I had like sausages on it, which was normal. Yeah. Other than that, it looked like just pizza sauce. And then it looked like someone took, like, what's the stuff you go, psst,
like Cheese Whiz?
Yeah, but white, the like frosting or...
Like whipped cream.
Whipped cream.
Okay.
It looked like someone whipped creamed, which was a certain type of cheese.
So they had like a ricotta cheese on it? Okay, okay.
Like balls of ricotta everywhere that looked like whipped cream.
Interesting.
And it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I'm just,
they
wasn't
put that
bad.
in lasagna.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Yes, yeah.
Right, yeah.
It wasn't bad. But to the point where I was like, when I was getting kind of full and I had like 2 slices left, I ended up just tearing off the butt, the handle thing.
Crust?
I'm just eating, I just ate the crust. Because I was like, I don't really want that, but the dough is so good. Yeah. I had to eat it.
You ate the stuff that people mostly leave on the plate.
Yeah, it was so good. So I ate that. You were at a Korean barbecue.
Yeah, we went to Korean barbecue for lunch. While you were doing all of your interactions with the developers and Dice Tower, we played several games with 3 of the other players. Now, this is the day that one of the 5 of us went and gambled all day.
Yeah, I literally thought he might have been dead.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we're like, we haven't heard from you.
I actually had to text him that night. I'm like, are you alive? Because we hadn't heard from... He left at like 10 in the morning to go gamble. Now, given this, he told us that his daily budget was $200 a day.
Okay, yeah.
So
For gambling.
For gambling. And he was already over that budget because when that day he was like, I'm already $50 from yesterday into my budget. Okay. But he's like, I'm going to go have fun. I'll be back soon.
Yeah.
All day gone.
Well, he wanted to do, because he was saying something about the rates and stuff. Like games change as soon as it hits the weekend. So he wanted to get in there before.
So he went to the Aria. He played poker.
Yeah.
He did not win.
Ooh.
He was very much down.
Ryan, our other friend, the first night, he won like $300 and some.
Yeah. So he was like, my trip's paid for. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
That was cool.
So while you were doing all your things, the 3 other players of the Game Brigade, we played several other games. Well, first we played Planet Unknown for the. Yep. So this is, I had read the rules. So 2 of us at that time played Planet Unknown. Jed, I think he was playing a Kickstarter game. He signed up on the event.
Chip Theory, I think. I think he was playing Cloudspire.
No, I think he did play Cloudspire, but he played some. It was a. I can't remember the name.
He played a prototype.
It was a prototype game that's coming to Kickstarter or has come to Kickstarter or is delivering. I can't remember the story.
Yeah, I have no idea.
It was something that was Japanese themed about sword crafting.
Oh, yes. Sword.
What was it named? Yes. I don't remember.
Katana no Kana or something like that.
I don't want to butcher whatever it is.
Like Katana no Katana, something like that.
So he was playing that. So Ryan and myself, we played Planet Unknown. And after that, we met up with the 3rd player, Jed, and we ended up playing Flamecraft, which was entertaining, although the first time I didn't pay attention apparently to this rule, but the end scenario of that game...
It's gotta be this one. Shogun no Katana.
That's what it was, Shogun no Katana. Yeah. Shogun without a katana.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not what no means.
What does no mean?
No mean in Japanese, it's just and.
Oh, so Shogun and a sword?
I believe so. It's been 20 years since I took Japanese class. Don't quote me. So he was playing those. So once we finally got together, we played Planet Unknown. We played Flamecraft. And the rule, so whoever triggers the end game, they get a full round from that player. Which is weird, because typically when you end the game, say they're the second person in turn order.
It usually goes to the end person.
You finish that round, right? And then you get a full round maybe after that, but you still finish the round, so everybody gets the same number of turns. Apparently in that game, that's not how it works. So Jed, who was winning the game, triggers the end game, and then gets another turn to continue to beat us
to win
in the game.
Continue to win.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I was like, well, it should just be the 2 of us that get another turn.
Do you own Flamecraft? You opened it, right?
I did not. So that was one of the issues I had with the Gaming Goat, actually, because I ordered the Kickstarter.
You didn't get it from them?
And they didn't actually get the Kickstarter. They had deluxe versions, but not the Kickstarter. So I was like, well, I'll just get a retail copy, and I ended up giving it to a family member. And I'm like, well, I'll get to play it every once in a while.
I was going to say, I own Flamecraft,
Yeah.
but I bought it for my daughter, and so I was going to plan on giving it to her at some point in the future. So it's still unsealed.
And most of these games we've been playing this whole time so far, all in the hot games area.
Yeah.
Predominantly, we just tried to stay in that area because, one, it was an easy place to find everybody, and two, they had a lot of good games that were already set up.
Although it was too hot.
It was a hot game room.
It was literally way too hot in that room.
Yeah. And so once we got done with that, we played a game of Oros where we were actually taught how to play the game. This is a game I actually bought from our local gaming store.
Yeah.
And it was a fun game. To wrap your head around how things moved in the game, it took a bit of time to get that to click, but once it did, the game made sense. Yeah. I could teach it now. And
it's an interesting little puzzle where you're changing the landscape of this land while moving your stuff around to get better. If I remember, I played this Kickstarter version. I covered it in my Kickstarter as you're trying to build your monument or something.
So you what you're trying to do is form volcanoes. So you're trying to essentially accumulate landmass.
Yeah.
So land masses go from 1 to 4. You get 2 4s together. You smash them together. That makes a mountain. On a mountain, you can build your temples and your shrines and all that sort of thing. And those,
because you remember putting pieces down.
Yeah.
People can,
they stagger up. You can only have one of your 3 different types on that mountain. And you can eventually get boosted powers to move mountains, but otherwise mountains stop movement. It's an interesting, complex system that once you kind of get the hang of it, it makes sense. But at first glance, you're like, wow, that looks intricate. But it wasn't that intimidating. Once we got into it, we really enjoyed it. We were actually, I'm pretty sure, taught by one of the developers of that game.
Really?
Because
the guy named was Brant. It was the name who made it.
Well, why I say that?
He's based out of Salt Lake City, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like why I say that is like I remember his face. I'm very good with faces. And later on, when I looked up Oros, it was that guy.
Oh, might be.
And so
he's based out of Salt Lake, so I can very much see him being in the Dice Tower, at Dice Tower.
Yeah, so very cool game. After that, we went to Korean barbecue because I was trying to get everybody to get a little bit of that Chinatown food going on because they had some really good stuff. And we did that.
That's where I went to lunch.
Yeah, you were at lunch.
And I was messaging you. So to give you a little back history a little bit, we had a pre-appointed meeting with Chip Theory Games to play their Elder Scrolls game. But it fell in line with my lunch with Dice Tower. Now, the Dice Tower one came after. Like, they invited me after the fact. Yeah. So I was scrambling to try to get a hold of the Chip Theory guy to see if we can push it back. He pushed it to 2. Yeah. And you were at Korean Barbecue, and you were like, shoot, I'm not sure if we're going to make it. So I was like, shit, I need to have 2 people. It needs to be 2 people for the playthrough. Yeah. So I was stressing out a little bit, but you were able to make it, and we were fine.
Yeah. I think I had 10 minutes to spare. We made it there. Everything worked out. We were able to play the game. It was entertaining.
So thoughts on Elder Scrolls? It's a Chip Theory game. I could say this. The biggest question I had between that game and other games like Too Many Bones is, do you need to own one or the other? I do think it fills kind of the line that Too Many Bones kind of fills in almost a more accessible manner, which was interesting. We obviously only played a little bit of a single story. So effectively what they had us do is pick one of the mage school...
they called them the guilds, I believe,
the guilds,
right?
The mage guild, the rogue guild, warrior guild. So we picked the mage guild.
Which apparently was the longest gameplay scenario.
Oh, yeah. And so then you get a quest. And so we headed out to go do quests. And it was fun. You have some random encounters. Yeah. You have some random stuff like, hey, this, just like Chip Theory games, you stumble into the room and something happens. What do you want to do? Like,
so a lot. You get a card. You have a narrative decision. Sometimes it leads to combat. Sometimes not. So we at one point we flicked some chips into a swamp. And
that was weird.
You flicked it way off the board.
I was like, so I flick it like this. I hit the freaking developer guy with it. And I'm like, oh shit. He goes,
no mulligans.
You've clearly never flicked anything before.
And I was like, ding.
Yeah, you got it. Yours landed on. The coolest thing, now I don't want to sit here diving too much into a singular game, but the coolest thing I thought is they have a thing called Delve, where you go into dungeons. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting how they are creating a procedurally generated dungeon. Yeah. Where it kind of forms as you go. And the way it works is you draw cards, which will show you a matte design you place down,
Yeah.
and you can design the maps any way you want as long as the entrances are touching, and you kind of start creating your own little world, like a dungeon.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. I thought that was probably the coolest aspect of that game comparatively to other
chip theory games.
Chip theory games and narrative campaign games.
Yeah, especially when you think of like Too Many Bones and you have this tiny little
4x4
grid to fight in. This, you have this sprawling map as big as playing Gloomhaven or something like that. It was very interesting.
Too Many Bones definitely challenges you to think abstractly.
Yeah.
Think you're in a small grid, figure out the puzzle based on the enemies. Here, very similar because they have all the same type of abilities, but you have a lot more room to kind of play around with. So very 100%. Big difference. He then showed me you had to take off.
Yeah.
So I ended up playing 20 strong. He showed the decks that they had available. I chose Too Many Bones because that's the one I know the most.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to basically play a mini version of Too Many Bones.
Yeah.
Really felt like I was playing Too Many Bones, where I'm rolling dice, losing some, having to assign some. And this is their card game that they introduced.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then we went and you decided to teach us after having learned multiple times, Planet Unknown.
It was on your list. You hadn't played it yet. At this point, I had learned the game, and I had taught the game once to 2 players.
At this point, I think I'd only played 4 games in total, and we were on day 3.
Time flew. I mean, we played very little the first day because we got in so late, and we had to get everything situated. But the days just go by fast, and games aren't always the fastest thing in the world to
100%.
do, especially when you're learning a new game.
Yeah.
Which is why, after day 2, we didn't learn as many
We didn't
games.
want to learn games.
We kind of abandoned that idea because I only ended up playing 2 of the games that were on my list. And I think you were the same.
Yep.
Like, out of everything, granted, there was a few games on my list that just weren't there. This guy in particular.
Yeah, we'll talk about these in a sec. Yeah.
But it definitely skewed how we approach things after that day.
So Planet Unknown, one of the hot games, Polyomino game. Turns out I think this might be the first Polyomino game I've ever played.
You said it was, yeah.
Yeah, and you guys liked it. Me, I am so on it. It's a fun, cute little puzzle.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is not a game I probably would want to play or recommend myself.
Okay.
So we talk about that a lot. Like, okay, would you recommend this for a game night? Like me, I wouldn't. But you guys obviously liked enough because we played it even again after this.
Sure. And I think it speaks to the different types of players. And I like thinky games, complicated games, tracks, Euro style games, worker placement games. Like, I don't always want to play some sort of area control combat oriented game.
Yep.
I want to be thinky. I want to be involved in some sort of skill tree or tech tree. Like, I want powers and abilities. I want to think out puzzles. That's what I really, really enjoy. So it really hit the mark for me. Like, I love the polyomino aspect. I love the tracks to be able to gain the skills, and you can take the different traits. Like, every single time I just went straight for that tech tree, got those powers and abilities that enabled me to keep playing the game in different ways. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I did like the way that what choices other people did for you really set for you. I thought that was an interesting little gimmick or puzzle.
Sure.
It just didn't grab me enough to want to play it again, even though we did play it again.
And see, I don't think you didn't quite appreciate that Lazy Susan with all the polyomino pieces because you haven't played other polyomino games and how long it takes people with a little bit of AP to pick their pieces.
Yeah, because you have really no choice. You get 2 choices.
Yeah.
Once someone makes a selection, so you're like, well, I guess I'll pick one of these 2.
You're very limited to what you can do.
Yeah.
So
I guess I can appreciate that. It was a good idea.
The simultaneous play of that game really does make quite a bit of a difference compared to like Isle of Cats that I've played an extensive amount of. Like, it definitely speeds up the game. I've had longer games with 4, 5, 6 players of Isle of Cats where this one can play up to 6 and it goes pretty quick.
Now, I think after that, we jumped to another game of Blood on the Clock Tower. Is that right?
Correct. I think we went to dinner, and then when we came back, we did play Blood on the Clock Tower.
That was another night of In-N-Out. I'm pretty positive.
Possibly.
Yes, it was the final dinner of In-N-Out.
I think I skipped it because I had already eaten Korean barbecue and I wasn't really hungry.
I know we went to In-N-Out again for our final night. And then came back, and I had a game that I decided... I checked the app. I was checking the app, but I was only checking the app for Blood on the Clock Tower gameplays.
Yes.
And I said, there's a game in like 20 minutes. I'm going to see... Or maybe it was shorter than that. It might have been 5 minutes. I'm going to see if I can join.
Yeah.
So I ran down there, joined it, and they actually were like, we need more people if you have any. And I came out and found you and Jed, and I said, hey guys, they need 2 more people. Can you play? And you were both hesitant because I had you sign up for the Saturday game. And you're like, well, we're already in a Saturday game. And I'm like, please, they just need 2 more guys. Come on.
We didn't want to play multiple games. We didn't want to commit to that. But there was actually a show the following day that I was going to skip because of this game. So I was like, well, if we do it now, I can go to that show. I believe it was the Sam Healy show.
The Sam Healy show, correct. So so we played. And that was, for me, one of the reasons I fell in love with this game, because I got a role. The first game, I didn't get a role that did anything. This game, I got a role that I learned a lot from. And I felt like I was almost Rain Man, like things were coming together. And I was like, I got this. I have solved this specific game. Fortunately, Matt,
I died first.
You died first, but you were also evil.
Yes.
And that was the problem, is we woke up and someone was like, either him or him is evil. And I knew that based off my power, you most likely were evil. And one of the funny things is I asked Matt, and I said, well, Matt, if you're not evil, what are you? And he just went,
I've never played the game before. I'm like, I didn't want to get caught in a lie. I've played social deduction games before, but nothing quite as complicated as this is, having so many different roles and powers. And I'm like, you guys have pretty much definitively caught me that I am a bad guy based on your powers, as long as you're telling the truth. My only out was to say that I was some good character that could have been in the game already and caught me in another lie. Or I could just accept my fate on my first playthrough and kind of see how it plays out.
So unfortunately, Matt, we caught you in the lie. You died. The guy next to you. So my power was I knew how many evil players were sitting together. So I was pretty confident one of your neighbors was evil. And then your neighbor then declared my role. And I was like, all right.
But this whole time, apparently the imp was supposed to attempt to come over and tell us, hey, these guys aren't in the game. Choose one of these, and we're gonna.
Now, with that, I have watched other gameplays from No Rolls Barred, who does Blow in the Cock Tower, and they don't always have a chance where the imp can go and let the other players know, and they just are good luck.
I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but I didn't even talk to the imp in that game, so he didn't even try, or didn't know that you were supposed to do that. I'm not quite sure which, so it kind of left both of us on the outs.
So that's why he just picked his thing. So we played that. It was I loved it, and so afterwards I actually stayed for another game where I became the imp. And that's the first chance, and it went from like having a great time and feeling like I knew this game. As soon as I selected the imp, dread and anxiety hit me, because I'm like, oh shit, now I got to really figure out how to not die. How do I play this? And I got to a point where I probably should have won the game. I didn't realize, based off numbers, now that I went back and thought about it, we had the game won. But I ended up killing myself as the imp to pass the power to someone else in the final 5 or 4. And I did that because people were starting to be like, okay, it's either this person or Brian. And I was like, shit, so I better kill myself so I can pass blame away.
And just the illusion, right?
Oh,
no, Brian... The imp killed Brian, so then
it can't be Brian.
Can't be him, so then it maybe has to be that other person.
And the unfortunate part was like it was either this little kid or this guy, and the storyteller had been pinging this other guy as good the whole time. So they said, well, let's just take a shot on the kid who was my minion, who I passed it to. They voted him off, and we lost. But if I hadn't done that and I just killed one of the other people, it would have been 4 players, 2 evil, 2 good, and me and the evil player can vote for someone. If it draws and there's no vote, then we go to the night phase. I kill the last player, we automatically win. So I actually lost that game for us by killing myself. I metaed myself too much, but it was an incredible experience of seeing the game from a different perspective, where I went from super chatty to not talking at all because you're like, shit, I don't know what to do. It was really, really fun.
All said and done, I think it's an interesting game. I think it's a game that your first play probably isn't going to go well. And that's a scary thing for a game, because for me, it put me off the game. But
it was unfortunate you died first. And you had a role that would have been really fun to play with.
Potentially, I mean, like it sounded intriguing. I mean, I stayed around for the whole thing, watched it all. It only took like 40 minutes or so. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I see the premise. I see why people like this. But I feel like it is a better experience if everybody knows how to play the game so that it is a good, engaging atmosphere rather than people kind of muddling their way through, because somebody making a bad decision because they're a new player impacts other people who are playing the game
at a higher
higher level. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting.
So this was Friday.
Yeah. So like the only other thing that once we were done with that, we actually met up with another guy. I didn't put that on the list, but we went and played. They had a very, very unique, massive version of Small World over in the Hot Games room.
Yeah, in the back room, back of it.
In the very back of the room. Nobody was playing it all weekend. We never saw anybody touch it. But we were like, I know how to play this. Do we just want to play
Catan?
It really quick? No, not Catan.
Small World, that's right.
Yeah.
They also had a Catan back there.
They did have a big Catan.
Yeah.
We also were interested in the Architects, Seven Wonders Architects, but there was no rule book. Yeah. And we're like, well, we haven't played this version of it. We can't mutter ourselves.
How is there no rule book?
I have no idea. But they had these giant, 3D printed characters or something. I have no idea where they came from. But anyways, we played this beautiful, I think it's multiple $1,000 collector edition copy of Small World. Everything's wooden or resin and painted and beautiful.
I didn't realize it was a collector's edition.
Oh yeah,
because you guys mentioned to me we played Small World. I said I hate that game.
Yeah.
That was all.
It was interesting. I think Jed ended up winning because there was one of the special powers was essentially cursed, and every single time you took a faction and you passed by the cursed on the selection track, you had to put 3 gold on it. Well, it was there on the first go-around. It was getting 3 coins every single time because nobody wanted to pick that power. So by the end of the game, it had 18 points on it, wow. And Jed just happened to be the last one to cycle his character, and he's like, well, I'll take the 18 points. But the funniest thing was Ryan picked the leprechauns in the middle of the game. And he placed out his leprechauns. He placed his little pots of gold. Yeah. And I was the next person to select my next racy character. And I picked... I don't remember exactly what the species was. I think it was the Tritons.
I thought it was a dragon or something.
The Dragon Rider was the faction, the special power. It was Tritons, so they're like fish people, like Murloc kind of looking things. And so thematically, I came in... ate up all his gold and took all the points as the dragon hoarder I was. Yeah. It was very thematic, very cool, very fun. Amazing copy of the game. Very jealous because I own all that stuff, but I don't own this. It was so weird because you guys,
I do remember this now because we talked about this on Saturday. You're like, oh, we played an incredible game of Small World. I'm like, really? Because that game sucks. They're like, you haven't played it.
Yeah. It is not a heavy game. You tend towards area control games that are very heavy. This is a very entry level. This is one of the first board games we ever bought when I started playing back in 2010.
So I bought that game because it was recommended to me. I bought the World of Warcraft version, and I played it. I'm like, this is it? Mm-hmm. It's just not fun. And the thing I liked was playing my race, but then they're dying. I have to fade them away.
That's the whole point. I mean, I think I played 3 different factions during the entire game.
If I played maybe when they had more power, because I know there's a lot of
There are a lot more in the base game rather than the World of Warcraft.
Yeah, so I bet, when you have a lot more abilities and powers to interact with each other, it makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played that game a few times and I sold it because I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Every game's not for everybody, right? End of the day.
So we went into Saturday. Yes. Now, this is the day Kyle was leaving, our gambler. He ended up not being dead. He responded to me, said, yes, I am losing a lot, but having a blast. Yeah, so he was playing poker all day. I don't really think I saw him until nighttime. I came back to the hotel room and he was asleep already. I was like, oh, well, at least he's alive.
Fair enough.
But we met up with him. He was driving back to California. He wanted to leave early because he said Sundays is miserable driving back.
I can imagine.
So we played Sheriff of Nottingham, which was a game he's been asking me to play with him for a long time.
5-player game was great.
5-player. I actually really enjoyed it. More so, I love that we're all lying to each other and bluffing and metagaming each other.
We were so ruckus. Everybody around us kept giving us the stink eye
really?
Because we were so loud. Oh. And you play that hand and be like, I've got 5 apples. Are you going to fall for it?
They would.
And they fall for it and be like, oh, take it. And you open it up and you're like, pay me that money.
Oh, man, that was so fun. And then me and Kyle, we're losing awful. So we're like, listen. you can have any card in this,
Yep.
and we're like sending 5 contraband through.
Yeah, because I mean, for me, it's been a while since I played this game. I think 3 out of the 5 people owned it.
Yeah.
A few of us have played it, but most of us not recently.
I never played it.
By the time we were done, like I was just toying around with like different premises of like, hey, I wonder if I just put some money on top of it. What he thinks of that? Like, I just wanted to start playing head games.
Yeah.
I probably wasn't gonna win. I didn't. Jed destroyed
You know what's
us.
funny is Jed was mind gaming me.
Oh yeah.
Like I would try different things with Jed. I'd be like, here you go, Jed. This is 3 apples. He goes, full of shit. And I'm like, no, I'll pay you. Stop it. Or I'd be like, here you go, Jed. You know, I'd like try different things. I was trying like other. You know, he knew he read me every fucking time.
Yeah.
And then he would be on his own 5 bread, and I'm like, ain't no way. There's 5 bread.
He played the truth game, which I love in that game. When you get ridiculously good hands, and you can just keep telling the truth and get people to pay you on top of getting all the goods, so good. And then at that point, nobody wants to risk it. So you can literally say, I've got 5 apples, it's 5 contraband. They have no idea because they don't want to keep falling for it.
There was a time I think that he did 5 bread, and then you did 5 apples or something right after, and you were like, "No way!"
It was 5 apples, 5 apples.
Something like,
it was like 10 apples. How was there possibly 10 apples?
No way, and it was true.
It was true. Both of them were true. Oh, it was so good.
So that I will say I had a blast playing that party game, which is funny because I think if you think about it, most of the games I played at this thing were party games. And I'm not a party game person.
Yeah,
so.
definitely interactive type of games, right?
Yeah. So we played that. Kyle took off.
Yeah. Before all that, they had the game sale.
Oh,
So
yeah, you had the game sale, the swap meet.
I woke up with just enough time to get there about an hour early. And even at that point, I think it was 50 people deep.
Okay.
So I got there. I'm like, I drove. So I had the ability to bring stuff home. I had a bunch of stuff from the gaming guild already. But I'm like, I might be able to get a game or two, mattering on if they're good deals. I was a little jaded because technically we have a game sale every 3 months at our game store. And I'm like, I get good deals all the time. Yeah. So I don't really need to do this.
No. He also snakes all the deals from our game sale.
I loiter, I guess is the best way to do it.
Loiter.
That is a very accurate statement. And interact and look around and hope that people come in. And I'm the first one to kind of nab the goodies.
I love it. I loiter because it's so true.
I do buy plenty from them.
I will stop by the game sale just like, oh, it's new. I might as well check it out. Matt's there. I'll check at 6 o'clock. Matt's still there. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just checking it out, hanging out.
Come and go. I mean, I'm also selling stuff, so I'm marking my prices down and trying to get as much stuff gone as I can.
Let's not get too sidetracked.
Yeah.
That is funny.
So anyway, we're sitting there for an hour waiting for this thing to finally open, and they finally open the doors, and I don't think they should have done this, but they pushed everybody into that room at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was so crowded, and everybody had not everybody, but a lot of people had those big board game backpacks sitting on their backs, smacking into people. Very hard to get through. There were some decent deals.
And I bet the first tables just get flooded with people.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's just like you can't even see what the hell's going on because there's just a million people in there.
Yeah. I'm like, I found a few things. You know, I was one of the first groups in there.
They should have done the Black Friday release where like Walmart used to do like, okay, 15 people.
They should have done it in phases of 50, 60 people maybe, so that it wasn't quite as crowded. I know that would have taken longer, but I think it would have been a more enjoyable experience because all I could hear was people was like, I have to get out of here. This is too congested. People having panic attacks and stuff because it was just so crowded. So that part of it wasn't great.
Now, you did pick up a game.
I got one game. So I ended up getting a sealed copy of the
Rise of Moloch?
World of Smog, Rise of Moloch, I believe. It's a CMON game from 2017. So it was the base game, the stretch goals, and one expansion from Kickstarter for $60. I thought that was a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Alex from Board Game Co. talks about the game all the time.
You actually ran into him and you told him. And he's like, that's a good game.
Yeah. And so I mean, it was a decent deal. So I was happy to pick that one up. I had plenty of room. Like I said, I found a few other things, but nothing that I needed to pull the trigger on.
So after our Sheriff of Nottingham game, we went to lunch.
Yes.
And I took a screenshot, a picture. Nico Supremo Neko.
Yeah.
Supremo.
So the place is Neko Sushi.
Yeah.
Sushi Neko, I'm sorry. Sushi
I
Neko.
can show you here, but you probably can't see it.
So
it's also black and white.
The entire weekend, I had done all this research because I'm a big Asian food fan. And so Chinatown is just ever so slightly north of the Rio Hotel where we were staying. And there was tons of very well reviewed places that were drastically cheaper than going to the Strip.
Oh my God, way cheaper. We didn't mention this, but we did spend one day where we went to the Aria for some Mexican food. $50 a plate.
Yeah, I got $20 taquitos. I was like, this is pretty steep. I'm like, I'm going to eat light because I didn't want to pay. Like, you guys got $50 fajitas and $50 two enchiladas. Like, they were good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, your $9 Coke wasn't cheap.
with no refill.
No, it was a bottled from cup. Mexico that you can pick up at the grocery store for like $1.50.
Yeah.
But that all aside, it was good food, cool atmosphere.
We had fun.
It was about That's the whole point of Vegas, right? Yeah. So they finally were like, okay, Matt, you want to go to this place? Let's go to this place.
Show us where to go, Sensei.
Right? It's like you're like, you've been talking about this sushi place. Let's go to the sushi place. So we take him over there, and this place was full. Like even at 2:00, the lunch crowd hadn't broken yet.
The whole parking lot was full. Given there's a lot of businesses there, it was packed though in this parking lot.
All restaurants. This place is just packed to the brim with restaurants for blocks.
Yeah.
And this place was very well reviewed. And if you're a sushi fan, it was pretty darn amazing.
So they had an all-you-can-eat, and we originally thought it was $25 for all-you-can-eat, which is basically order anything on their menu.
It was.
Their normal menu, order anything you want, and you'll get a smaller portion or sometimes fill. I wasn't sure.
It's very similar if you go to a buffet in Vegas where everything is on those little tapas-style plates.
Yeah.
So you can get appetizers with like gyozas and the kalbi nachos, and like kalbi steak pieces and bulgogi nachos, all these interesting things, spring rolls and egg rolls and karaage and Korean fried chicken. Like it had everything. I'm like, man, we shouldn't have even gone to that Korean barbecue place. We should have just came here.
It was so good. It turned out to be actually $29 because it was a weekend, so it was Saturday.
Yeah.
But to be honest, guys, I actually had breakfast that morning. I went to that Hash and Go that's in the hotel.
The Hash House or whatever.
It was okay. Yeah. Really not very good. $30 too for my crappy breakfast.
Yeah.
So then 2 hours later, we were meeting for this, and I'm like, damn, I'm not that hungry.
Yeah.
I still ordered it. I still had like 4 rolls, multiple little entree things, to a point where I took a photo of the thing, because I'm like telling my wife, when we come back here in June, we're going here.
Yeah.
It was so good.
You typically go to an all-you-can-eat sushi place, and the rice portions are heavy because they want to fill you up on rice. I had these guys try tamago, which is the sweetened omelet pieces.
Oh, so good.
And nobody has ever tried these on the menu before. So whenever I go to sushi, I always get people to eat this. But the rice ball was this big.
Yeah,
it was so tiny you could barely even see it.
To be honest, though, I feel like by having Matt there was like a cheat code, because he was like, "Oh no, he's ordering things." I'm like, "What's that?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, it's the Kobe beef or whatever." I'm like,
Kalbi beefsteak, and
I'm like, "Get me one of those." And then he's getting this like banana looking thing. Like, what's that? Oh, it's a sweet omelet.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want one of those. Yeah. In fact, a few times you'd be like, me and Ryan were like, "Can we have it?" You're like, "Sure, I'll order another one."
Yeah. And the service was fast. They you only have 90 minutes, but
you only have 90 minutes?
You had 90 minutes to eat, but
is that the all-you-can-eat time limit?
Yeah, but
I didn't know
we didn't even use 90 minutes because the service was so snappy.
Yeah.
There was only a few things. I think some of those hot dishes that take some time to cook.
Yeah.
But if you ordered a sushi roll or something that was more cold, it was out like that.
The fish was good, high quality.
Yeah.
Didn't have any fishy flavors. I wish you eventually reminded me that there's like, if you just want the raw fish, kamchi.
So sashimi is is just the fish portion without rice. Nigiri is the fish portion with a little bit of rice. Then you can start going into rolls where it gets more complex.
So once we figured out, I was like, oh man, I feel like I missed out even more. So that's why I wanted to go back.
Yeah, definitely have to go back.
Super good.
Wish we would have gone there multiple times. It was one of those things where you could skip breakfast, go to maybe a late lunch, and probably not need dinner.
No, I still didn't eat dinner.
I didn't eat dinner. I was very full. I was good. $30, and it was amazing.
You were good.
Yeah.
So then we came back and we played Planet Unknown again.
It was open so we went to the hot game area.
We wanted to see what was available. We wanted to see if like the Garfield game was available. Always packed.
So Wayfarer's always busy,
Yeah.
and every single time I saw people sit down, and it was like 2-3 hours that they were there learning the game and trying to play it.
But surprisingly, Planet Unknown was open.
Yep.
So we're like, let's play that.
Yeah.
And then we decided to play with the alternate boards, which have like unique powers that everyone has to kind of figure out your puzzle.
Yeah.
And again, you guys loved it. I'm like, this is okay.
Yeah.
I still had fun, but I didn't love it.
Yeah.
But it really more solidified that this is just not getting a game I'm really interested in.
But I mean, it had 12 different planets to choose
Yeah.
from that all had special abilities and weird board structures. You had the player boards with all the tech tracks. You can flip
were
them
different.
all over.
Yeah.
And you had 6 different factions that all function differently with different tech trees and different special powers.
There's a lot. It made it more interesting.
Definitely more interesting.
Way more interesting.
Yeah.
I just don't think I'm smart enough to play it.
Fair enough.
I don't think my brain is wired in the way that you... Because I looked over and Jed like had a blackout.
Yeah, he had
And
a
I'm
lot
like-
of pieces on the board.
I'm like, what the hell?
Jed and I, before Jed showed up, I was winning like most of the games I was playing.
Jed
When
is a
Jed-
silent... He's a silent like a dark horse.
He's a
like,
killer,
You just
yeah.
don't think he's just going to win every game.
Him and I were neck and neck in
Yeah.
almost every game. Like 1 or 2 points made the difference between him and I making first or second.
The guys in the Game Brigade group secretly are all very good. Like Scott secretly very good. Jed secretly very good. Matt, everyone's good.
Yeah.
And then here I am. Boop, boop, boop. I don't know. Oh, that's right. We're trying to win a game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fair. I mean, again, we've talked about Planet Unknown a lot in this video because we played it 3 or 4 times during the weekend. But it's my job. I do schematics. I put products on shelves and organize them for different reasons and look at different statistics to be able to maximize profitability and whatnot.
You should just have a Lego channel.
Right up my alley.
So then after this, I played Guards of Atlantis.
Yeah.
Did we miss something? Oh, we have Sunday.
Yeah.
I know we missed.
I know, not Sunday. So on Saturday we played Guards of Atlantis, and I went to the top 5. So this was later in the evening at this point. Because we came back from sushi like between 3:30 and 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
We played Planet Unknown.
I played Guards of Atlantis
and
with people from the group. We played with Ryan, Jed, and then we met with one of the viewers from the show, also Discord moderator, Successful Geek. He was part of that, and we played Guards of Atlantis. And first time I played that game, I believe I played with Successful Geek. We actually won by destroying it to the towers.
Nice.
I played a character that was very mobile and archer, and my opponents, both Ryan and Jed, were like, we're killing you. And I was like, I'm dancing away while Successful Geek's just going around killing the minions, pushing the lane. And I'm like, just keep pushing it. If they're going to keep chasing me, just win the game.
They got tunnel vision and they
did.
lost. Yeah.
They did. They couldn't get me.
Yeah.
And so that was and that really solidified to me the game that Guards of Atlantis is just a tier above. But again, it's like a game you're like, I don't know if it's for me. You know,
it's a cool MOBA game. Like in that realm of some of those kind of combat-oriented area control games, I definitely liked it better. Like we played Hoplomachus the other day.
Hoplomachus remastered.
It was good, but I felt like both of our characters were very similar. Like,
we had a lot of similar units, while our heroes were more asymmetrical.
A little bit.
It still felt like we're throwing the same pieces at each other.
It did, but there's something unique about playing as I'm this character, not this group of characters that have a subtle nuance to them.
Yeah.
This, like that game, you really do feel
Hoplomachus
different.
Remastered, because just to go tangent a little bit, I felt like I had a better opportunity to be like, here's the Amazonians, and we're going to make them maybe very good archers. You can have maybe multiple archer units that are low health but high range and damage. Something like that. But I felt like, no, you've got this person, I've got the same person.
Yeah.
You know,
I felt like you had a little bit better synergy between your characters. You had the ability to have good ranged attacks, and you had the taunter characters that had the hook ability to pull them to you. Where my characters didn't quite have the mobility to deal with that. Like it's interesting, but I do feel, although I didn't love Guards of Atlantis 2, I did feel like it was a more interesting game as far as
that means we have to play Cloudspire next, because Jed played that.
Yeah.
And now it's to find out, but that's beyond the point.
Yeah. So while they were playing that, I went to the top 5, the things that they are annoyed with or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
the top five
It's the top
for
five for Dice Tower, and there was 5 of the different people. So you had Camilla and Chris
which
Yee
is a video that you can watch.
Yeah, it's on.
Dice Tower.
It's live. So there was a top 5. So there was 25 points. Very entertaining. It was a good big group, lots of interaction, and there was even a hidden. I don't know if you've watched that video yet, but spoilers. There's a hidden top 10 at the very end of it.
No chance of getting out of this.
No spoiler. You're gonna watch it. I mean, you have to get all the way to the end of the video. So I mean, if you're not putting wolves on the end of these videos, you're not getting to the end of that video.
That's true. That's true.
So very entertaining video if you haven't watched it from Dice Tower. But I was there live. Very entertaining. So that was one of the last things I did.
And then I found a game of Blood on the Clock Tower that was on the app again.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran over there. This would be my 4th game. You went to go watch Sam Healy.
Mm-hmm. That was
so
early in the day.
I signed up with this one. This one was actually an advanced gameplay. So it's using a different script.
Yeah.
And so you came over because you're like, hey, yeah, I checked out the Sam Healy. Not really the kind of discussion that they were that you thought they wanted to do, or you were interested in.
I wasn't that interested, so I was like, well, I'll go interact with Brian.
Yeah.
I played Blood on the Clock Tower, didn't love it, but I was like, well, I understand it better, so maybe I'll have a better experience.
And I will say in Matt's defense before I throw him under the bus here, this was a script that is way different than what we played. And Matt went from, okay, I understand the game now let me play it knowing it, to no, here's a brand new script.
Whole new set of more complicated characters.
Way more complicated. And after a false start, here's your role that does absolutely nothing.
Oh, yeah. I got the what I don't even remember the name
goon?
of it.
Not the goon.
I got the goon first. Was like, oh, I have some abilities.
An interesting power.
And then the second one, I had the Tinkerer.
No, it's
something like that.
It basically says you may die at any time.
Yeah, it's essentially the person who's orchestrating the whole thing. This
could kill you if they need to.
Needs to balance the game. You can just die. And I was like, how do I even play this?
Yeah.
And how I played it was I died first again.
Which is, if I were to say when I watched other people's games, it's a role that you go in the beginning, especially in this one, because there's minions or demons that want to have deaths every turn. So you could go, hey guys, I got a worthless ability. I can be killed.
Yeah.
I'm a safe kill. Let's find out, whatever we can learn from me. But unfortunately, Matt was like, not for me.
Yeah.
And I gave Matt shit for this.
Yeah.
I'm over it now.
I get it.
But Matt left.
Yeah.
He was killed by the town's group. Were you voted to be killed?
Yes, I was voted to be killed because essentially it wouldn't matter if I died was the consensus. And I was like, I can't argue with that.
The interesting part about that, and this is what you didn't know, is we had a player in the group that is would not allow townsfolk. Oh, you weren't a townsfolk. You were an outsider.
I was an outsider.
So there was an ability that would say townsfolk could not be executed. So, and I thought originally, I was like, oh, I wonder if the storyteller killed you in spite of that ability. Yeah. But you were an outsider, so that doesn't matter then.
So at that point, the rest of our group was wanting to play games.
Yeah.
Because they had come back from whatever they were doing, and I was like, well, I'm going to sit here for the next hour or more while this game finishes. Yeah. I've essentially been eliminated, was how I felt. I had a pretty bad taste in my mouth because I've been killed twice. The first person in this game,
both times.
We sat there for an hour just to start the game.
It was a long setup.
I wasn't in love with it, and I was like, the only reason for me to stick around was to do my one vote and essentially to interact with people that I was pretty sour on doing. Yeah. So that was my defense. But I did leave without telling anybody. I was just like, I paid my money to be here. I'm going to go do something else.
So in my perspective at the time, I was like, well, that's pretty shitty because you're still part of the game. But in retrospect and thinking about it, Matt paid to go to an event that is a limited event, and he wasn't enjoying his time, and it didn't really affect the game that much.
And that was my opinion when I left.
So I was like, okay, it was fine. Yeah. I still was soured about it at the time, but I got over it. Yeah. Because, you have to think, Matt's here to have fun, and if it's not fun, there should be no reason you're forced to do it.
And if my character actually had some sort of ability that might have been relevant for me to convey information, then I felt like, okay, maybe I would have been able to do more. But my role was to die.
Yeah.
That was it. And I was like, how am I going to even interact in this game? I was like, I have other things
now,
I can do.
before someone in the comment section starts, in the game you're supposed to die. It helps the team. We get it. Yeah. I understand that. But Matt, he didn't feel like he could play.
Well, I don't even understand it because this game was more about death than the other versions.
Yeah.
And I'd never played before. So my perspective was I was a character that was just filling a void, essentially.
Yeah.
And was kind of pointless. I'm like, that's kind of a sucky thing to be able to do for the first time you played the game. At least this version of the game. So I wasn't in love with it. Again, cool game.
Did you play anything, though, after that?
Well, that was in the middle of the day. So that was before I went to the top 5 at the end of the day. So that was in the middle. We went to lunch, that was after we came back from lunch.
Yep.
But before we went and did the stuff that we had already talked about, Guards of Atlantis, and do the top 5.
This was after.
The Blood on the Clock Tower was.
Yep, it was after.
Okay.
Yep. Because I went from that to dinner. Okay. Once that was done.
Yeah, can I skip dinner because I was full still.
Yeah.
And
so I don't know what you did that night.
I didn't do anything. I went to bed super early because, again, I drove. So I had to drive from LA or Las Vegas back to Boise, and it was going to take me 10 hours, and it was daylight savings the next night. So I was going to lose an hour of sleep.
That was brutal, by the way.
Yeah.
The daylight savings killed me. So that night, to give you history, the first night I played Blood on the Clock Tower, one of the guys next to me owned an escape room. And I was a specific role in that first game. Everyone was telling me I'm a liar. And we had bet. I said, if I am lying to you, I will let you get one of my board games for free. And I was totally serious about it because I knew I wasn't lying. It was not something I was going to lose anything anyways.
Yeah.
But I said, but if I'm telling the truth, you got to give me a pass to your escape room. We shook on it. I was telling the truth. Yeah. So he honored that. His name was Shannon, and he emailed me and said, hey, Brian, here's a coupon code. You're able to take 4 people with you. Thank you for meeting. Thank you for playing. I had a great time. Yeah. So I was like, first off, I was blown away.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
He legit followed through with it, yeah.
He followed through. I mean, I would have followed through too if I was lying, but I wasn't lying.
Well, I mean, he could have just been lying about not even about owning this facility.
That's true. So I had reached out to Alex and Meg and invited them. Say, hey, I got some free passes. Do you want to join me? Also invited Successful Geek.
Yep.
And then Jed was like, hey, I want to go with you as well.
Yeah.
So the 5 of us, after the Blood on the Clock Tower, we went there. First, I went to a pizza place. Worst pizza I've ever had in my life. Awful, awful, awful. I'm not even going to mention the name of the business. It was so bad. But then we went to the escape room that was owned by Shannon. This one was like a psychiatric ward was the time setting where there's a person who's been possessed by a person's possessed a doll, and you're trying to escape before you are also going to become like part of whatever she was like.
And this was award-winning, right?
It was their award-winning one. Yeah. Now, I will say it felt a little dated comparatively to the last one we went to, the first one. Okay. But it was just because it felt a little older, like some of the props seemed a little older, maybe a little more run down. But it was still a multi-room experience, which was cool. One of the, I don't want to spoil anything too bad, but there was one aspect of it where there was like a map of the facility, and it involved having one person reading off locations from that map with me at a circuit breaker trying to hit certain codes over. Super fun, thematic. Yeah. Again, each person did something fun, and I liked it when we escaped. We had to go down like a garbage chute into a pile of dead bodies, which was interesting. I'm like, it just was fun.
Did you turn off the trash compactor?
No. It kind of felt like that. And I'm a bigger guy, so I'm sliding down. I was telling myself, Meg goes, Brian, are you coming? And she looks up the chute as I'm coming down like a freaking walrus.
Well, Meg is like half our size.
Meg is like she'd be standing at this height. And so I'm just like, and I come down crashing into these bags of dead bodies. And I'm literally kind of felt like that in the, I'm like, dude, am I going to get out of here? Like, yeah, that was a good time. So, really fun hanging out with the 3 of them. Jed included. I'm talking about the other creators that are obviously not part of the group. Solidified again with me that this is going to be, if we do these things, a business, like a tradition.
Yeah.
Then Sunday, you left early. That's also why you went to bed. Yep. Time change was losing an hour. Yeah. I forgot that. So when I went to bed, I was getting ready to go to bed. It's 2 a.m. Next thing I see, it's like 3 a.m. I'm like, what the hell happened? Yeah. It's like, shoot. So Sunday, real quick, I went back to the publishing room, the expo hall.
Yeah.
Finished talking to some publishers, talked to Cosmos, who was there. This is not a free copy. I bought this copy way ahead. This is a Christmas. This is a Christmas
your
copy.
Wife bought you that copy.
Yeah, like this is old, but I wanted to put a Cosmos out here
Yeah.
because I had a great time talking with Cosmos. Talked with Bezier Games. Talked with the people who just bought the Beast Kickstarter. They bought the publishing rights to bring that to retail, which was super cool.
Yeah.
So I actually felt like when I was with Alex, I didn't feel like I had an opportunity to also introduce myself because it was Alex pretty much running the show, like, because people were like, yo, he's Alex from Board Game Co., let's talk. And I'm just like with my backpack kind of watching and hanging out. So I wanted to go back and be like, hey, I want to introduce myself. I'm Brian. Here's the kind of content I create, whatever. Yeah. And then I took off. So that's about it. Before we end, because this is going to be a super long video.
Oh, very long.
I wanted to finalize and be like, okay, what were your overall thoughts? Would you recommend Dice Tower or a board game convention? Because I'm going to Gen Con soon. And Gen Con, to preface this, I nearly canceled my trip to Gen Con because Dice Tower was very exhausting.
Yeah.
And I had a group of friends to kind of fall back on and be with. When I go to Gen Con, I'm going to be alone. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that by myself for 4 to 5 days.
Yeah.
So first off, Matt, let's keep it, brevity will be important here, but I do want to get the point across. What were your impressions? What were your expectations? And what did you think overall?
Yeah. My expectations, I think, were a little bit too high. I have a tendency to do that. So I thought being able to learn new games was going to be easy. Being able to find people who wanted to play games with you would be easy. And there was 3,000 people at this event, and I felt like there was a lot of people who knew the people they were playing with. They were playing games they already knew. Some people were even bringing games that they knew to play with people that they play with. So it's like you're coming to a convention to play games that you own with the people you play them with. Yeah. So they're here just to be in the atmosphere, which is a foreign concept to me when I was thinking about why I was even coming to this event. Yep. I felt like I was wanting a lot out of this, which was what my top 10 was all about. I'm like, I wanted to get experience with new games. I wanted to learn if I wanted to buy said games. And I didn't get a lot of that, but I still had a lot of fun doing it. And I think going again, I would have to come with the idea that I'm wanting to play games that I'm more familiar with. Yeah. Because I'm just there to play games and have fun. I'm looking forward to our local convention that's going to happen this summer, because that I feel like could be what I try to go and do at something like that. Yeah. I feel like the notion I had going into this, potentially being able to play games with the Dice Tower folks or content creators, is maybe something that would happen more like one of their retreats.
Now, you also play the content creator literally every week.
Absolutely. But I wanted
it's not the same.
And I thought going in after watching tons of Dice Tower content that I might be able to get in a game with Camilla, or maybe Mike will teach me a cool game or something like that. I wanted to get taught Vindication. Like, there are a few things that I really wanted to try to do. Yep. But after going to some of the meet and greets and the shows and whatnot, they barely even played anything. Yeah, they were 100%. So busy just running the event. And
not only do they have to run the panels, then they have to go run the booth. Like, they have shifts at the booth they have to do.
And they're just trying to have an experience themselves, let alone... Yeah. But, like, they were present. We saw them all the time. Yep. But they were not often playing games or teaching games. Like, we didn't see it as much as I was hoping to. Like I said, I think their retreats where it was small, like 200 people, I bet you get that a ton. But at this, because there's so much and there's so much space, I think that expectation was way too high.
Now, we had a conversation. So the whole reason we went to Dice Tower as a group of 5 was World Series of Board Gaming announced that they're going to do the thing. Mm-hmm. We talked about going down there. And then you actually brought up, well, why would we go to an event or playing competitively when we could just go play at Dice Tower West and do anything and just have more? And I was like, you know what? You're kind of right. Mm-hmm. So we shifted to Dice Tower West. But the question that you kind of also brought up was, if we're going to this, are we just going to be playing together? Because we can just do that here. Yeah. Are we paying a bunch of money to go do something? And I will say, unfortunately, I did play with other people. I played a few games with other people. for the most part, I did play with our group.
Yeah.
One, because I didn't want to learn any new games. You guys had a game you were willing to teach me at the time or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just was more comfortable. So it's interesting because I didn't really ever jump in with, other than the Guards of Atlantis people. That's the only time I jumped in with another group.
Yeah.
And then the one time with Dune Imperium, the first night is the only time I ever put the looking for players up. So it's interesting. It was like, would I recommend Dice Tower? It was an experience.
Yeah.
It was a ton of fun. I would love to go, but then it's also like, we also talked about the cost, like flying to driving.
Yeah. I saved a lot of money by doing what I did, by driving, and I bunked with another person in our group, and so we split the room cost. And like, I was able to get it for, I think I barely was shy of $700.
Yeah. To be honest with you, the driving, I was almost like, I'd be willing to drive next time, because having the car was so valuable. The parking lot is right off the convention, so that's a bonus. But you got to get out of the strip and the hotel, because the food is oppressively expensive
talk about
and
your
not
Uber
very
costs.
good. Oh, the Uber was expensive.
Very expensive. Like Ryan just coming from the airport, he said his Uber at
was
night
like $40.
was $40. I was like, $40. I'm like, it cost me $60 in gas to get here.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I drive a Prius and I like an old lady. But that aside, I saved a lot of money by doing that. And, you know, if we did an Airbnb, because of the parking in the future, we could potentially stay off-site, be able to drive there in the morning, leave, you know, go to dinners together and whatnot. I think you could do it for a lot cheaper if that's what you were trying to do. But a lot of people just love going to Vegas.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy doing the Vegas thing and adding some board games to it, then that's great. That's kind of like what the Dice Tower Cruise is. If you enjoy cruising and you want to play board games in your downtime, then that's great. That's a good option for you. I don't know. Like, I'm interested to see your opinion of the Gen Con experience, because when you go to Gen Con, it's more about the new games and playing demos. Well, and
the weird thing about Gen Con to me is it's really to go buy games. It is. And I don't go to these events to buy games.
But they're also selling you on those games, and a lot of the times they have demos. And you can play the game, get taught the game. These top 10s, I was wanting to get taught games, and we didn't see that much, but I really enjoyed when we approached the developers. Like, there was a gentleman that would have taught me how to play Planet Unknown. Like, we got taught how to play Oros. We got taught how to play Elder Scrolls.
That was easy. That was good.
Yeah, that was entertaining, and it was good, and it was a cool experience, and it made a big difference compared to just going there and reading a book for 20-30 minutes or watching a video while you're trying to set something up. Like, I really enjoyed that, and going to a convention where that was maybe a little bit more present would have been amazing. Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I had a great time at Dice Tower. Though I wanted to finish up one thing, though. There was a moment, I think on the second day, Thursday, where I was like walking around. I think I was finishing up with meeting the publishers, and I'm like, I'm not going to do any of the things I want to do. There's literally not enough time, which is weird, because I knew I still had 3 days left to go in this convention. But I was already like, I am not going to be able to do anything that I wanted to do coming into this. Just because, I told this to my friend who goes to Vegas all the time. He goes, well, yeah, because you're in Vegas. It takes 2 hours to get lunch. It takes 3 hours to get dinner, because you got to go there. It takes time to do it. He's like, yeah, you wake up, you go to lunch, your day's already halfway gone. And it kind of felt like that, especially if we're going off site. The final thing I want to mention is the car. I very, very much think it's a value to have the car. The only problem I was thinking of is if we had multiple people and people wanted to go at different times, because that was the bet. We did check away at different times. Is if you have a car, you're going to be in a really weird situation if you want to leave and the driver doesn't want to. This is true. So I was like, maybe 2 cars, but then again, now we're losing efficiency. So it's kind of weird. But overall, I still had a great time. I would recommend it, but I do think people should temper their expectations, because it's going to be a different experience. And when I went to my first and only board game convention prior to this, I didn't play with anyone, because I thought it was kind of like everyone was doing what you mentioned. They brought their own games. They're all playing with their own group. And there wasn't as many people looking to welcome new people in as much as I thought. Not that it wasn't there. It just wasn't as much as I thought.
Preface this, it was present. But you saw people playing games with the same people, going and talking with the same people, going to, like, you saw, like, interactions with the same groups, and you're like, okay, that's kind of what people are doing. Like,
Yep.
and even if it's like, okay, fine, it's a group of 2 or group of 3, then they're just bringing 1 or 2 people in.
Yep.
But that core group is still present.
And we were also guilty of it. We did the same
absolutely.
thing. So. All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you, Matt, for joining me for this wrap-up and recap video. We will have it posted hopefully very soon, so thank you for that. All right, we will talk to you guys very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.